Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HSBG podcast. I'm your host, AJ Collins. I'm here with my constant co-host, Shady Bunny. Shady, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Collins. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Had a good rest and had a lot of cool things in the Hearthstone scene kind of pop up, and I'm definitely playing more Hearthstone as well. So definitely have a lot to talk about here, and it's definitely going to be a nice one today.
Yeah, man. I'm happy for that. That's good.
I
Good to have
bet you
Collins
are. Uh, but overall, I do want to jump right into it. We have our weekly overdue, but we'll be talking about our week throughout the podcast anyways. But first things off, most important thing, Battlegrounds announced a new season 4. Now, I personally have not been paying attention to any of these season things. I'm like, what is season 3 or whatever? Like, that's really not stood out to me. But apparently, we're in season 4, and definitely for season 4, they're going to be doing a couple of things. So, buddies are going away, and there's a new ETC World Tour, which translates into a new hero and tons of new minions. So, what's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on buddies moving away, new minions, etc., etc.? Are you happy about that? Are you sad? You know, that kind of thing.
I mean, I think it's inevitable at this point where
Okay.
they introduce a mechanic and then it goes away. So I could have played this patch for several more months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a great time, but
Okay.
that's generally the case for me if I am having fun in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's more just like, okay, this is just how it is, right? Like the time is up, new season, the mechanic goes away, might come back, maybe new mechanic gets introduced. But no, I mean, it looks fun for sure. It's a lot of stuff to explore.
Looks fun. It sounds like you've already looked through it. Interesting.
Looked and
You
experienced.
Oh,
Yeah.
spoilers, man. I'm gonna be looking at
Wow.
these for the copium first time. Not really.
Okay. All right.
uh,
That's how it's gonna be.
but before we do, I think one of the most important things I wanted to talk about specifically was this keyword update for poison. I thought this was like important enough to mention, but they are updating some keywords in battlegrounds. Poisonous is being removed and Bob's Tavern is being replaced by a new battlegrounds keyword, Venomous. So during each round of combat, the first minion that is damaged by a venomous minion is instantly destroyed, but not these uh following minions that get hit. So Venomous only procs for the first tick of combat damage, then afterwards it's completely gone. So definitely think this was interesting. It means like there's no more poison minions, I believe. All of them are gone, but they
Yeah,
do have
nothing has
more.
the poison keyword. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have more venomous minions in the game. What are like your initial thoughts? I guess this is like more of a deeper dive, but like just like your
Sure.
first thoughts in terms of like, oh, poison's gone. Did you miss poison? Do you think this is like good replacement, that kind of thing? Not full metal, but like just like initial thoughts. Obviously, your opinions will change over time.
Yeah. So the instinct is that that's too weak because I
Okay.
really I like the game right now,
Okay.
and I really like the ability to pivot and stuff. The Yeah, so we've I can't really talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this
go
without
for it. Go for it. Yeah,
we've
you've play tested it. Okay.
we have play tested, right? So we know how it feels, at least initially.
Hmm.
Obviously, as Colin say, opinions might change.
We did play
But
test in different groups.
yes,
So
yes, we
that
will play.
might change our opinions. And like
We have some different experiences
yeah,
for sure.
you were playing with like RDU and stuff. I was playing with Dog, and Crip. Okay, just saying.
Oh boy. All right. Yeah. So yeah, you have one charge
Right,
of poison, essentially. That's what venom is, right?
right.
So you have one charge of poison, and it was just exceptionally sad to see a token bump into the venom minion and then it loses venom.
Right. Yeah.
So that was savage. In our lobby, there were I mean, 2 times in a row in the finals, it was
Mhm.
just someone with like a giga trickster with parrot.
Okay.
Because if you can't reliably poison your board, what's someone to stop from making like a 200 health trickster with like
Right.
a reborn golden macaw? And you're like,
Right.
well, all my units have 500 health. And it doesn't really matter that they don't have that much damage. If everything has that much health, then, and like the reborn macaw bumps into the venom unit, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there goes your poison, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it felt very, you felt very, very much like, oh, I guess it's over. Like
Mm.
I didn't, when you're in that spot, you're like, what the hell do I do, right? How do I counter that when my opponent just went all in on health? What do I do when I have these like shitty poison units that get bumped into by my macaw and then it's over?
Mm.
So I do approach every patch in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
So please don't, especially towards the listeners, please don't take this as me saying like, oh, this was a horrible decision, right? It's very possible that after several days of playing, I really come to understand, okay, this is now how we do things. And like for instance, there was a huge change to Quilboar, where Quilboar now have the ability to make gems stronger individually.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of my games, every single one of my gems was adding 15 damage.
Huh.
That is a form of poison, right? Like,
I did not play Quilboars.
oh yeah, they're nutty. They're nutty.
I
So
heard, but I did not personally play any Quilboar comps in my all, and I played a ton, like 5 hours, right? Worth.
I had two Quilboar games.
Okay.
One of them was so nice because it was Alakir with a parrot,
It's gonna
and it
be
was
so interesting because we probably had completely different experiences, right? So it's like, oh, I did
yeah,
this, and you're like, oh, I did this, because we didn't talk
yeah.
afterwards because it
We
was
will, we
too
will.
late.
Yeah, I was so
Yeah,
tired.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was so tired. So yeah, without expanding too much on it, that is my initial feeling. My initial
Mm-hmm.
feeling is that the thing that poison is supposed to do is to counter large health, and it's now very difficult to do that if your opponent with the large health also takes a precaution, which means, I have some shitty tokens, right, to get rid of your stuff, or I have several taunts where you will not access the thing that you need to poison before your venom minion loses the venom, things like that. So
Yeah.
that is the initial take, where I'm not that big of a fan, but we'll see. Like I said, the replacement might be, hey, we're giving you the opportunity to make really high attack things, and you could counter it that way. It's possible that we're just going to see a mentality shift in how you approach someone with a lot of health.
Okay, yeah. So I'm similar to your opinion, maybe a little bit less worried. I do think maybe it would be nice to still have something with poison, just to have like an answer. But I think it's definitely going to be more stat centric meta. I think that's pretty clear with the way it functions. And also, Venomous is not even that um, versatile in terms of how many minion types have it. It's still pretty limiting in terms of like Murlocs are really still the main driver of Venomous. So when Murlocs aren't in, it's you still have that same kind of problem where it's like, where do I get Venomous? Oh, it's just Mantid and a couple other minions that aren't like
Yeah.
as prevalent. So it's still like even with the change, you still have that same like, oh, is Murloc in? Oh, I guess it's a stat war now, and it's even more now with some of the changes. So I do think that
Yeah.
is pretty evident. I will say that I Leroy's still in, right?
Mhm.
So what I've seen people do, at least in my playtest, was people just make big Leroys, right? So that they don't die to those small chumpers and they actually get a reliable kill. So that might be something people start doing more, just having these big Leroys, and as well as just having these Venom minions maybe farther back or after your taunts or so, because that at least that's how I did it. So I won some games kind of scammy in a way with with some Venom minions, and I was like, oh, Shady would have been proud. And the way I did it was I just had these big taunts just kind of taking the damage, and then I had the Venomous kind of dealing with things left over. I would say definitely if your opponent is running like spam summoners or like any flood summoners, it's pretty doomed, right? But usually those decks don't have huge minions, I would say. There were some. What was really annoying is people with lots of summon starts and then like two big chunkers in the back. Like that was really hard, especially if those had taunt, because those summoners would just like clear everything, and then the chunkers would just wipe the board. So that type of board state might be too problematic in that there's like nothing you can do if you can't deal with it. But I
Yeah.
like our NA team was very like stat is good. Okay, I will just make 500 every game. And it was just like, come on, guys, what are you doing? It was just like there was a guy with Terragosa, like he had like 1,000 health, and the opponent just had like 400 attack minions, and just like yeah, I still win.
I
'Cause
had a couple thousand health on my Targaso,
yeah.
so good.
So there's definitely ways to make really large minions, and you could definitely see the power of early scaling, I guess, in terms of how it keeps rolling. Like an early magma lock was just like, oh, okay, here's your gigantic minion, and it's just bigger than everything else, and it keeps getting bigger every turn by just playing. So you don't get contested, right, and things like that. So I'm definitely noticing that there's no limiting factor to just focusing on scaling where normally you were worried that the end game people would transition to Venom. Now it's not as reasonable to do that, and you can just rely on having these big minions being your win condition.
Something that came to mind when
Mm-hmm.
you were explaining you just have a bunch of little shits and then two big minions in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when I was just going very like heavy into that Mithrax meta, where like, oh, I just get a Mithrax and a bunch of poison.
Yeah.
That might be the new meta, right? Where instead of a bunch of poisons, you have like a Mithrax and a bunch of summoners
A
to
bunch of
hit
summon
it
stuff.
all the
Yeah,
times, you know?
yeah.
So, but that's exciting, right? That's like cool stuff to test and to figure out. Um, all right, cool. I think that's indeed good to see our initial take on it and see how it changes
Yeah.
in the next episode. See if we feel whether it matters or not.
Is it coming out by next episode? Oh, it should, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
We'll have it on the 9th. So
Okay,
today's
then yeah, of course it will. Okay. All right. Now it's time to talk about the playtest event in actuality, right? So we did get access to the new cards. We got all of them as well for around 5 hours. Our group leader was Celissa, and she was very like there was no break essentially. Like the longest before a game wait time was like maybe 20 seconds, but normal average time was like 3 seconds. You're in, and then you're right into the next game. She was very on it, so we played like I don't know, like 8 matches or something like that over the course of
That's nice.
yeah, 5 hours. So we had a lot of playtesting done, but overall, I mean, if I want to generally start, I felt like I definitely had an advantage because I hadn't played that much buddy meta. And I felt like, especially at the beginning, people were like doing buddy stuff mentally. Well, I was just like, I'm just gonna level the 5, level the 6, get the big broken cards. I didn't read a lot of the cards before I started, so I was just kind of learning what to do. I was like, oh, this looks good. This looks good, and
And you
definitely.
have cars on it. Fly out.
I was like, wait, Feldbat doesn't eat itself. Like I was like learning that on the fly, like that kind of things, and had a lot of good games. I definitely felt like something that I was pretty happy about was that I didn't know what was the best. Like very late into the playtest, and normally when I do a playtest, like by like game 4, I'm like, oh, this is broken. I guess I forced this, and I didn't really have that feeling the whole way through. I didn't really know like, oh, I knew some things were like broken or good, but I didn't know like, oh, is there anything that was like outlier? I need to force this every single time or anything like that. I didn't really get that
You're
feeling.
you're saying that you didn't know that before, or you're saying even after playing, nothing stood out to you.
There are some things that stood out to me, but not. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is going to be the only thing I'm doing day one. Feeling where some
Okay.
things with like well, any meta like Naga meta or like what's that
Right.
other thing? Yeah, there's always something that's like, oh, I'll just do that.
So maybe I was either ill-informed or the interaction that the way I saw it. But I was told that literally every NA lobby was just all fireworks upbeat.
Okay, so
So
I will
is
say
that just Twitch chat
upbeat
over
duo.
exaggerating?
Okay, upbeat duo, yes, was broken, but you can do upbeat duo with a lot of stuff. It is, which is probably why it's
Sure.
broken, right? So that card in itself, yes, is definitely broken, but it opens up a lot of combos, which is something. And I will say, yes, there were some people in my lobbies forcing upbeat every game, but they weren't winning every game. To be fair,
Mm,
but they were
okay.
forcing it every game.
Just
So
classic Twitch chat, like wanting to get a narrative there and be like, yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah,
were
so,
they.
so for anyone just listening, like what are they talking about? There is a new minion which has battle cry, target a minion, and then that minion will come to your hand 2 turns later.
Mhm.
So at the end of the second turn. So when you finish your first turn, that's the end of the first turn. Then you finish your second turn, then the card already pops in. So it's not that long of a wait.
Mhm.
The way how I used it, where it was completely ridiculous, right? I got a Bran,
Mhm.
and I targeted my Bran, which meant I got a golden Bran.
Well, you were playing Millhouse, right?
Millhouse,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So that was a disgusting interaction where the upbeat minion remembers what it targeted. So when you triple it, you not only get the new target, but you also get the old targets. So because I had a golden Bran, this one upbeat minion was giving me 10 cards to my hand. So not only 10 cards, 10 cards that I already owned.
Wait, it
So
was
then I
was
put,
giving you 10 cards? Oh, because you
well, yeah, so
tripled the upbeat. Okay, okay, okay,
I
okay,
tripled
okay,
the
okay.
upbeat
Yeah,
with a
yeah, yeah,
golden Bran.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So this, I mean,
So
literally 10.
obviously not balanced.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
10 cards to your hand
every
every
two turns.
two
Yeah, I hear
turns.
you.
And you just
You
have two
get
fireworks on the
triples.
board.
Yeah.
No, no, no. So you have a fireworks on the board. I had two of them, right? So
Mhm.
what that means is every single card I got was a pair
Mhm.
or triple.
Right.
So 7 minions on your board
Mhm.
plus 14 per fireworks activation
Yeah.
times 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Dog did this too and killed
Right, I mean,
everybody. That dog,
so
he just passed his
yeah,
whole game. He just passed every turn and he was just scaling like plus. It was
yeah.
like 100 something every turn. It was like, what
Like
can you
he's
do?
not passing because he doesn't have hand space, right? But yeah,
Well, no, he
he's
would just sell. Like so, every 2 turns, he would just sell his 10 cards and get get a bunch of new
yeah,
cards
yeah,
every
sure, sure.
like
Yeah,
nothing
I mean,
else to do.
if you're getting 140,
Yeah.
then why would
What?
you?
Yeah. Why do anything else? I hear
Plus
you.
140 plus 140 is pretty good. Like we're getting plus 70 per turn for doing absolutely nothing,
Nothing.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just put that I would say is the definitely the outlier of the playtest where we're like, oh, maybe, and this is always the case when new shit gets designed and it's like you have an option to go real greed lord mode. Like good players are really good at getting away with that because they make the right plays early where they have the health, they have the power on the board, and then they transition into this. And because I think it's easy as a playtester to be like, yeah, okay, that's kind of cool, but you can die. I was like, no, no, no. If they do it right, they're not gonna die. And
Yeah.
then whenever, yeah, go
It's
ahead, please.
annoying because the opponents are good, right? It's like
Yes,
like
they'll do it. They'll do it, and so that is, I mean, obviously, my case, right, with the golden brand is a bit of an outlier. But then again, if you have a brand, you have a brand because you target the brand. Right?
M-
So, yeah, it's not that hard, right? You get one brand, that means you get two more brands because the upbeat duo works with brands, so you can target the brand. And so, yeah, it's a very, very reliable way of tripling your brand. And then once you have a golden brand, you're so what I did was I used the second duo to target the duo, right? So I tripled the duo as
right.
well, and then it's just disgusting from there. Anyways, that is definitely something to highlight.
Yeah, that is the outlier. Okay, I
Yeah,
will. You're right. Guess I should. That card is
yes.
not balanced But it's a flexible card, which is why I wasn't saying that is like, oh, um,
Yes, getting a bunch of extra copies of your
anything
strategy
you
is built
want.
into
Yeah,
it.
it's broken. I agree with that.
Getting two more Felbats, getting two more Thisas, getting two more Orgazoas, right? I mean, that's obviously always good. So.
Mm. But in terms of actual compositions, I saw a lot working in terms of like, oh, are people winning with? I didn't see a lot of Beast wins, though. I heard Beast was good in your lobby, so I don't know. But like Mechs was fine, Elementals was fine, Quilboars was surprisingly good. You know, because it's not historically been good.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, if your gems are
yeah,
adding
for
over
sure.
10 damage per gem, like my Charlie was literally like, oh, everything gets plus 15 damage. Because Charlie says play a gem, right? So
Mm.
once your gems have been boosted, it's like like two Charlies on the board, you're like 30 damage on everything.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
what's the best way to talk about the playtest. Do you want to go over like the what's it called, the cards themselves, and like what they you know how what they kind of jump out to you in terms of like, oh, you remember this about this card, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So I'll quickly so I'll probably just limit myself initially to like three things to talk about, three
Okay.
things that stand out. So one we've mentioned is the duo. So I'll see if I want to get three others. The first thing is that there is a Naga that provides stealth on
Ah,
spellcraft.
yes, I know what Naga you're talking about.
Yes, and this Naga is not bound by type, which means that you can stealth anything on your board.
Silent Swimmer.
And that is a
I'm on the
problem
board.
because this was in terms of experience, in terms of player experience, I was having a ton of fun playing Quilboar, and then I met a board with a stealth baron and frogs.
Yeah, I don't
And
like
then
that frogs are in the game. I gotta be honest.
exactly. Like it does not like when your opponent has because not only is it a spellcraft that provides stealth, it also adds plus
That's
3 plus
five
5.
health, five plus
So
5 health. So you're never getting
you're
cleaved.
yes, you're not going to zap it. So because the instant reply people have, oh well, zap works versus stealth. No, it doesn't, because it's got fucking extra stats. So it's like the zap protection is built in. So you're not zapping it, you're not randomly hitting it, and we all know what happens when frogs have a Baron that cannot die. It's pretty damn good at that stage.
It's
So
maybe too good. Some would say.
it's absolutely too good. So
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this with stolen gold, right? When you had stolen gold, what happened was people would just force frogs, and instead of the Baron having stealth, it was just golden immediately, which means that you would just get a few hops from the golden Baron with the golden
And
frog,
that's all you
and it was
needed.
already over. Yes, like if the Baron then died, they were still big enough to beat you. And it's not so much the perfect end game that I'm talking about, because yes, we can talk about perfect endgame where your opponent has the time to find their own Golden Baron with their Golden Blaster, AoE the board, right? It is not that frogs are unbeatable, but once a frog player, let's say on 9 gold or 10 gold, finds this combo, you beat anyone in the mid game. Because in the mid game, people don't have a Baron and a Golden Blaster to AoE your shit. So if frogs in the mid game have access to a stealth baron, like they win every round, and that's I mean that's so disheartening because I had this sweet Quilboar comp, and yes, sometimes you lose to a frog because you just can never kill the baron and it's annoying. But I actually had a good board, but because the frog player did not even have a great board, but it's like I mean if the baron literally can't die, then they,
I
they're
I
gonna win.
I also
Yeah,
don't understand why this card's like in the game. Like, what is the stealth doing for Nagas?
yeah,
Like, it just
exactly.
buffs other compositions and makes it toxic. It also makes Avenge like too good. Like, because Avenge
Yeah.
when it lives is like so good, and this just says it always lives till the end. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
So I want this changed to give another friendly Naga stealth. And then
okay,
shield
that's
stealth your
fine.
Patchmar, sure,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
That's
fine.
cool. Because I think that Nagas are absolutely not OP. I like playing Nagas, but I don't think they're OP. Your Pashmar getting sniped is frustrating. I get it, right? So I think essentially the text will be stealth your Pashmar. But that I think that's fine, right? Because I mean the spellcraft itself +3 +5, you pick that up in the mid game, you're like, okay, that's good, right? That's solid. Why this is at all possible that they can target Baron is beyond me. That's really one where I think they just massively dropped the ball. I don't understand it. It's going to create so much frustration when you see people running into this. Like, it's going to be on the forums immediately, people complaining like, oh my god, I couldn't target this frog. Because people already complain more about frogs at low MMR, right? It's like, oh, frogs are so strong because frogs don't get properly countered at low MMR. So now you imagine this thing, all they need is to find the stealth and, let's say, frog and then 2 sewer rats or something, and it's already really hard to beat that because you know that exponential scaling. Anyways, so that's the biggest thing that stands out to me in terms of player experience. I do think that on average the upbeat fireworks thing does have more impact on the game because it's in every single lobby. It's a neutral combo. And then I guess my final one would be mechs. Mechs felt really, really good. The mech avenge guy, the 3/6
Oh,
that
that guy.
yeah, so there is a mech avenge guy. For avenge, put a magnetic in your hand.
Yeah, get a random magnetic mech.
Yeah. So there are a couple new magnetics as well. There
Yeah.
is a 2-drop magnetic that
Yeah.
gives you plus. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go for it.
Okay. So there is a 2-drop, which is kind of like Gruul, but 1/1, so +1/+1 per turn. And then there is a 3-drop that gives you 1 extra gold per turn. So what happens is you get 2 of these guys in the back, you have your Avenge setup, and then you just end up putting a ton of magnetics on your cards. Then you find Utility Drone, which is the new Mech 5-drop, and that text is so bonkers that like you might read it at first and you're like, how good is that? And then you see it proc one time, you're like, that's really fucking good. Okay. The text is for each magnetization on your mech, give it +1/+1 at the end of turn. So this is not a combat buff, it is a permanent buff. So what that means is you have your mech avenge guys in the back who farm 2, 4, 6 magnetics every turn. Like I've had juicy boards, right, with busters and stuff and Kangar where it just didn't end. You're like, oh. So you can absolutely get 6 magnetics per turn with that. And then just think of the scaling here where each turn you're adding an additional permanent +6/+6 per turn. So +6, well, let's not say every turn because obviously at the start you're not farming 6 magnetics, but it was disgusting, right? Because then you can play a second utility drone and now you're gaining, I don't know, like a shit ton of stats per unit every turn. Then you play a Drakarian Chanter and then you double everything. And then obviously the finishing blow is the 6-drop mech has the text every time you magnetize on something, also cast it here. So the 6-drop gets every single magnetic also applied on itself, which means that when you have the utility drone, when you get the Drakari Enchanter, this thing just like RDU and myself were in the finals and our guys were like 400. It's insane.
Yeah,
Like
Dog was doing this. I remember it, and he was punching people.
like yeah, I won 2 times with this. I got it twice and I both were wins. Because I mean, because you just get module on everything, right? Because you're getting magnetics the whole time. So everything is moduled. You keep your Avenge guy unmoduled until the end of the game. And then you're like, all right, all in, taunt my guy as well. You have a Deflectobot. You pick that up in the mid game somehow. And then you just ram a bunch of magnetics on it. And it will easily get +100 by the time you have to start relying on it. Like I had one Deflecto boy coming in fresh and it was instantly like 50/50 or some insane stuff. Because I mean, I did unload a bunch of magnetics on it, but still like disgusting because I already had the utility drone on the board. Then you put, I don't know, like 2 war gears, 2 menaces, a couple of those smaller magnetics on there. And it's, yeah, it's so insane. So that is probably my experience if I were to limit it to those 3. And then obviously there's some small things where, Quilboar for me were good, but a little overshadowed by, the Stealth Baron and the mechs. And then Trickster stuff, also with Quilboar, because there's a Quilboar that can make gems deal more damage, but there's also a Quilboar that can make gems have more HP. So if you can play a bunch of that, then you can put a lot of HP on your Trickster. And because Poison is much more difficult to manage now because it's Venomous, yeah, huge Trickster Macaw is useful. So yeah, that's a TLDR of my experience from the playtest.
I would love for me to have like that type of perfect memory where I'm like, oh yeah, this is my experience. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna figure
Okay,
out what
sure.
I actually did. All right, so I did not have like I didn't. Okay, so you actually knew what the cards did, right?
Well, no, no, no. The mech stuff and the pirate stuff. So we were told.
Right,
Funny
which I
story.
didn't
Which is
know.
why yeah, yeah, Collins. It's hilarious, right? Because I mean, I want to say I prepped, but in reality, half an hour before it started, I looked through the cards of the types I thought they were going to be in. So we were told that Mech, Quilboar, Pirate, and something wasn't going to be in, and we fire up the game, and they're in. So we're like, "Ooh, that's a surprise because they are now releasing the types in waves. So when the patch gets released, we're only gonna have 6 types in the game,
Oh
and
really?
then
I
we're
didn't
gonna
know that. Okay.
yes, 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 yes. So this is part of just giving everyone as because when every type gets reworked, imagine for us like
Yeah,
we
I
are
was
such
fine with it.
veterans.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, we get dropped in that, and it's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll learn on the fly. But just imagine if you're a casual player that has a limited amount of games per day or even per week, right? That they can play. Imagine how difficult it is. Like every single thing gets reworked, and it's like 10 different types, and you need to sort of learn all of that. So I think that's a good idea when they do this big of a change. Say, okay, these 6 types first, probably so that there's one ban rotating, so it's not always the same ones, and then you add more of them over the course of that week, or maybe even longer than a week. So yeah, cool. But yeah, that was the funny thing. Mechs we're not supposed to be in, so I was like, oh, what are these things? So, but yeah, whatever. That was the funny start of the playtest. Like, oh, I guess everything's in. Like, I was like ready. Like, should I kill the game here? Like, are we supposed to show this on stream? Like, are we getting in trouble? And it's like, no, 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 you're fine. Just keep playing. All right.
I want to say that I did not do that much unique stuff. Like I didn't really abuse the new cards. I was just like, "Oh, I remember this card."
Oh, you were that guy. Okay.
So,
We had XD like killing me with Stomper with 0 new cards on the board, and I was like, bro, are you fucking real? Like,
well, I
get
mean,
invited to the playtest and kill me with 0 new cards on
but
your
well,
board?
no. I played a ton of new cards. I'm just saying, like, there were some people that fully committed to like the new archetypes.
I get it. I
So
get it.
like
I get it.
Pocky, Dog, Crip, right? Those people were like fully trying like the new stuff here, and I was just like, oh, I guess this is good, or things that I didn't think was bad. There was oh my god, there was a crazy game where I played Ragnaros, and I know you're gonna hate me on that, and I popped it turn five.
Whoa, what happened?
So
Is this Ickies or what?
no. So there's this beast, right? There's this beast with
Yeah.
that summons 2 0 0 1s or something like that. And what happened was Dog was playing like 2 of these beasts with Nazat. And I was just like, oh my god, he's just pumping me. So I killed like, I don't know, like 16, 17
That's
minions
half your quest in
in
one.
that
Okay.
one fight, and it popped perfectly. It was like
Oh,
the craziest thing I've ever seen. I was like, oh my god, you just gave me
that's
like
that's a
17 minion kills in one fight and popped it like perfectly popped it final hit. I was just like,
that's
thank
the chef's kiss. Like 17 kills, one fight. Yeah. No,
it.
that's a good buff to rag. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
You
in
should.
Beast,
That's a YouTube, by the way.
yeah,
That's good to know YouTube.
yeah, for sure. I need to work
Uh,
on that stuff. So yeah, definitely. I did some games with Battle Master, right? Battle Master being dropped to Town Tier 4 was pretty good for me. Especially, you lose early, then you pump it a little bit. So I was doing like a fell bat with this Battle Master thing. That was a lot hard to deal with. A lot of people are also utilizing Azul. I do think like once people get better at the meta, people just have like always poisons or something to deal with the Azul, unless you're taunting everything. But I think it was scaling super strong, but I just think if you have like Leroys and stuff, you'll be able to deal with that. Something I thought was really cool was the Murloc combos. Like Murlocs were so different. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're
So I really wanted to play Murloc, but they were banned in all but one game. I feel it was really
okay.
sad. I
Okay,
really
well,
wanted to learn
well,
stuff.
we played a ton of Murlocs, and boy was it cool. So I thought they were trolling with the cards. So like Scourfin, give a random in your hand +5/+5.
Yeah.
Dream counter when this is in your hand after you play a Murloc, gain +3/+3. I was like, how are you going to make this work? But Pocky really demonstrated. I definitely felt he fully theory crafted what his board was going to be because it was so clean. It was like perfectly clean. He had Shutterwalk, right? So he could proc battle cries. What he was doing was he was procking Lookout to get more minions. He had also had a double macaw with the taunt Murloc, I believe. What card is it? There was like a taunt Murloc that procs your battle cries. I don't know if it's a Murloc actually, but there's a taunt that procs your battle cries.
There's a taunt death rattle
Yeah, is it a
that
neutral?
says proc the adjacent. It's a dragon, I believe, or a
Okay.
beast. Dragon or a beast, one of the two. Might be beast. So it procs the adjacent battle cries. So that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Triggers the battle cries of adjacent minions. So he had two macaws with this procking lookouts, and then he had the Murloc that summons your highest tier minions in the game, the Basquil, with just like 5 Bream counters in his hand. So the thing about the Basquil is that it locks out the minions you're summoning. So you can't summon the same minion every time in your hand. But but he had huge Bream counters because he's getting like 10 Murlocs every game from
So he
this.
was running multiple Basquils.
Well, he just needed one because he had the macaw, right? So the macaw would proc with reborn, right? It would proc proc everything.
Did you just leave some board space for that then, or what was like?
Well, yeah. So his first card was like a golden Scourfin. So this one has when it dies, it gives the random minion in your hand +10/+10 or +5/+5, but 10% if it's golden.
Right.
So he has that to die to fill space, and then the taunt minion will also die, proc like multiple times, give space, and then he summons like 200 Murlocs from his hand. Like I was just like, what is this? I didn't know you could do that. He just has 200 minions coming out of his hand, and they all just scaling. It was like the craziest thing. I was like, oh, I guess it works, but it looked perfect. It looked like it was like a perfect setup for the combination, but it was so fancy looking. I was just like, damn, okay, Pocky doing stuff. So that was super super cool.
The sick thing about that is that your biggest minion is literally not on the board.
Yeah. So like poisons were like useless.
You get rid of the mountains, right? You just put the Basquils in the back, and you're just like, I mean, my big minion is literally not on the board, bro. Like you can't hit it.
It was absolutely cool. I was like, oh my god, I didn't know this was like. I thought they were so I was just reading the cards for the first time, and like there was a card like summon your highest health minion or your highest thing in your hand. I'm just like, how is this playable? And then Pocky comes in like, oh, here's how you do it. It was so fancy. So that was super cool, as well as I did a lot of elemental stuff personally. I don't know. It's because I like Magmaloc, right? So
I wanted to try going with like rock, but the games were just very like we did not really play with Murlocs. We did not really play with elementals. I think one person won one lobby with elementals.
What's rock? Oh, rock. After you play a elemental, give your minions +1 attack. Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean it seems good, right? When you're cycling like that, just like wee.
Okay, so for elementals, the things that really stood out for me. So it looks like Murlocs and elementals you didn't really like. So I could talk about these. So
yeah, great.
The 6-drop element of surprise, right? This minion can triple with any elemental. Absolutely crazy. I would say it turns, the quality of life where you have a pair like the pairs will shine. All elementals just start shining. It's just like, okay. You have to be you
essentially when you so just to clarify the mechanic for the
right.
listeners. So let's say you have a wildfire and an elemental of surprise.
Yeah.
When you buy a second wildfire, it will triple.
It will triple, yep.
And it will receive Divine Shield?
Yes. So that's another thing. I was playing with like golden magma locks, and then I golden my second one, right, with the element of surprise. And I'm just like, why did these have divine shield? The chat's like, what do you different? It's had divine shield for like 5 turns. You've not done. I was like, no, I had not noticed. So you triple with these, they give your card divine shield. That is so strong with the wildfire cleaves, with magma lock. You're getting divine shield on these huge scaling minions. It's definitely something that you're gonna have to be super cognizant of. And then another thing that I thought was really super crazy was the what's it called? The upbeat upstart. So taunt at the end of every second turn sets this minion's health to the highest in your warband. So the golden version of this, it sets the minion's health to double the highest in the warband, and it can target itself. Right? Think about that. It could target itself. So you know what happens every time? It will just double its stats. So there was a player with Drakari Enchanter as well, right? Which procs your end of turns double, and then it will. What happens is this card hits itself, it doubles, and then it doubles again. So it goes from like 80 health to like 380 health, and then if you wait 2 turns, that thing's gonna quadruple every 2 turns. That's so busted that has to be changed. Right, so that
always
that is not balanced at all.
I have seen this one time, and then see, this is where the stealth knock is also so incredibly toxic. They just use the stealth knock on this. So again, right, the Venom loses the charge before the minion ever attacks or gets hit. Obviously, I'm not saying that it can never work. There are intelligent ways you can do it by playing some tokens on your board, for instance, if you are the Venom player, to delay your Venom minion from attacking, and then sort of like luring the taunt out of stealth and then letting the Venom connect. But that is so elaborate and so RNG dependent and all that. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see. So also, guys, if you are listening and this is the first time that you see such a significant change to Battlegrounds, it's going to be fine. Right, just let me tell you that. It's gonna there will be broken things at the start, and people will abuse it. I would say just go with it. That's what I also say. Go with the crazy at the start. Do the crazy things. Have some fun. Don't take it too seriously. Usually they're pretty fast at adjusting or even removing the really egregious offenders. And then, there will be things that are too strong for a while, and then things will get nerfed, and it will be pretty balanced after that, because this is something that you really don't want as a game developer, or just in general, right? If you make the new minions, you do not want people to not play with them because they're too weak.
Right.
So they are always going to err on the side of caution there and make them too strong rather than too weak, so that you actually have a reason to play with the new cards. We saw this with Diablo. When Diablo first came out, Diablo was too weak, and the correct play was to never pick him. And that was really annoying. Now, because Diablo was such a toxic mechanic, turns out, it's pretty bad when it was good as well, because then the entire lobby gets affected. But the principle carries over quite well to cards where, you don't want cards to be too weak at the start. So the game is not going to be ruined. It's not like, oh my god, it's over. If it's irreparable or whatever. It's just going to get a little crazy at the start. People are going to find out what works, and then there'll be nerfs. So just go with it, enjoy it, and don't be too worried about what the game is going to look like.
That's a fair caution. I appreciate that, because I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it, and you're like, wait, it's not that bad. I agree, it's not that bad. I'm just saying, like quadrupling your stats every 2 turns, on an infinitely scaling minion is, maybe a little bit not balanced.
The Drakari Enchanter worries me, because I was calculating it when I was playing the Mech game. I was like, I could run a Leroy, or I could run a 1/5. Okay, this 1/5 is stronger than Leroy. in the
Yeah,
end
I
fight,
mean
right?
Leroy's worse than everything. So that
Yeah,
like
no,
to
no, no, no,
me
no,
like
no,
you're
no, no,
I don't understand.
no, 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 Collins. I'm going up against huge taunt divine shielded mechs,
Yeah, so the 1-5
and I
pops
don't want
instant.
to run a Leroy.
Yeah, so the 1-5 will be the popper. Like obviously you play the 1-5. It makes sense to me.
That's some great combat utility
Yeah.
compared to a unit that kills anything right through divine shield.
It's just not as good.
But for combat value, right? We're not talking scaling, but literally combat value. I was like the 1-5's better because I'm gaining so many stats on my
Ooh,
mechs.
I want to have a question as well.
Go.
What do you think was the weakest archetype or the like minion type that you played?
Oh, okay. I was messing around a bit with dragons. I did want it to be good, and I think it is gonna have so much potential, but it felt a bit
So
slow compared
dragons,
to
okay, dragons.
crazy shit other
That's what
people
I
were
would have
doing.
also said. So
Okay. Which is
I
a
guess
shame, 'cause
dragons still struggle. I just don't think they gave them anything that really was like super premium. I will say
yeah.
Taragosa, right? Like stuff is going to probably be good with Trickster, but in terms of Caligos scaling, I just don't see it. Um
I can absolutely see it, but I think
you
it's
need a
going to be one
setup.
of
You need more setup than
yes.
other cards is the
You
problem.
you need to set up, right? So I think it's a Murloc dragon thing where I
Mm.
believe that if you can get Bran
Yeah,
Cali,
right. So you need brand, right? Essentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bran Cali. So
Kelly.
it's kind of like Murlocs in that regard, where dragons need Bran now because Caligos was reworked in that it's very subtle, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's a
It
huge
now says
difference.
It now says when you trigger a battle cry rather than when you play a battle cry. This means that Bran doubling the triggers also doubles Caligos triggers, and that is very important. So the setup is that you have a Bran, you have a Cali, and then Murkai is also reworked in that it is no longer restricted to just Murloc. So if you have Bran, Kelly, Murkai, right? And obviously you don't need the Murkai straight away, but it's more like a crazy thing that you can add. You can proc a battle cry at the end of turn twice, and then not only receive the benefit of the battle cry, you also get 2 Cali procs to your board.
I'm definitely
So
feeling the power creep, by the way, as you're talking.
yeah, it's so what I have been theory crafting is if you can get Drakisath, so similar to what we did on Shudderwalk in one of our co-ops.
Mhm.
You play on tier 4 and you get a golden Drakisath. Just imagine that being procced because you also have a 5-drop dragon I think it's a 5-drop that says you can either
Yeah,
discover a
Disco
battle cry
Shuffler.
minion
Yeah.
or trigger a battle cry on your board. So imagine if you have Bran, Golden Drakisath, and you proc the Drakisath twice. You not only get the Caligos triggers, you not only get a shit ton of attack on stuff you want because you're getting 2 of those golden thingies with a brand on the board. You're also getting 2 6-drops. But yes, of course, you can theorize all you want. You can set up your ideal perfect game state. But what determines of whether a type is strong or not is not what does their absolute ideal board look like. It's how easy do they get to that? How
The
often do they survive?
the
Yeah.
issue, a lot of it, is that there's nothing really to do till you get Kelly. So you're basically not playing Kelly dragons until you get the Kelly, because there's
Not entirely true though. You have the 2-drop. I did this right myself.
okay.
So you have the 2-drop dragon that says give your other minions 2 attack if they are lower attack than this.
Oh, that one was good. I did
Yeah,
play that
so
one. I would.
I put Drakisath on that one, right? So it
See,
basically
but
was
the
the
thing
highest
is,
attack.
I didn't play dragons with this, right? Like there was no need for me to play
Oh, well, I had
dragons.
Bob Smuggler, right? So Bob Smuggler with this is pretty nice.
Okay.
Because the Bob Smuggler also starts dealing damage.
Right,
But yes,
right, right.
I mean there's a reason I said my instinct was dragons were the weakest, right? So
Mm,
this is not me saying like, oh well, obviously dragons are OP.
right.
I'm just saying that there is something to do, but yeah, I mean compare that to hey, I'm farming 4 magnetics every turn and it's all
Right.
divine shield and I get economy and level and then you're dragons and you're like, well, I have this elaborate setup that I need to chase and then maybe I can win a game.
All right.
I mean, it's incomparable how consistent one is and how inconsistent the other will be.
I do want to say one archetype I did mess around with a lot. What do you think it was? I know you're gonna get it wrong.
An archetype that you were messing around
With
with
a
a
lot,
lot.
yeah.
Demons?
No, it was pirates.
Pirates. Okay,
Who
okay.
would have guessed? All right, I'm a
There
pirate
we go.
player. You take out Hogger, and I'm
You
like,
take out the Hogger
you
and
know,
call
like
him the
hell
pirates
yeah.
enthusiast.
Well,
Okay.
once again, there's also a cleave in there.
Yeah, right. There is okay, so yes. Guys, we're not gonna be able to cover all the changes, right? So we are now talking about the things that we think are relevant.
Mhm.
The I
I'm
don't think
kind of
it
trying to
even
go from archetype to archetype, so like minion type to
yeah,
minion type.
yeah. But I'm saying like I don't even think that all the changes are on the website right now. Like all with removed minions, for instance.
There are some people that tells you to remove minions, but I don't know if the website does.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like Hydra is out and
Yeah,
there's now a pirate cleave.
right. Did
Yeah.
you want to talk about the remove stuff? I guess I could find that quickly.
We don't necessarily have to talk about it, but this is just to illustrate that it's not like we're adding more cleave to the game. It's just that we've moved it
We've
from
moved
beasts
it,
to
yeah.
pirates. Yeah. So, but please continue. Pirates have a cleave now. You were messing around
Okay.
with
Oh,
them.
right. Okay. So you're right, because I was gonna look for information, but I there were some cool things with pirates that I was like, oh, okay. So I guess the most noticeable or notable card for me was actually the 4-drop pirate, the underhanded dealer. So after you gain gold, gain +1/+1. I thought this wasn't going to be as good, but every time you sell a minion, right, you
Yeah.
gain gold, so it procs. So
It's Peggy. It's like Peggy on itself.
yeah,
It's
so
so
I
good.
had this and Peggy, right, and so
Uh,
so they're both 4-drops that are on 4, right? So I was just like, oh, you can just run both of these very easily, and that can be like one of your reliable scaling. And I got to tell you, I was playing this minion with Barov. It was I was just like, come on, this is not balanced in
well,
terms.
you say that it's not balanced in terms of Baroff. I played it on Millhouse. So buy,
Uh,
sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Yeah, but no, please
But
continue.
I
Yeah.
mean, I have you get 3 gold, right, if you're winning your bet. So it's just like, here you go, just get free. And with having more gold, right, you get to buy more things. And there's a lot of things in the game now that just give you more things, right? So with it's very easy to just like, oh, here, and then into a coin, into a thing, into a a gem or whatever. But the gems don't help you, so I didn't really do that. But it was very easy to scale this thing, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Kind of Peggy feeling, Peggy esque, I would say. So definitely seems like something that gives you something to do. Some of the and then also the lovesick balladist, right? Give a party +1 health for each gold spent.
Yeah.
It was just
I
very
want
easy to end their turn with this thing and get like +30 health.
it's a Gallywix buddy, right?
Yeah, it is a Gallywix
You're,
buddy.
you're
Yeah,
literally just picking up a Gallywix buddy. It's like, should we be able to buy Gallywix buddies? I don't know.
I mean it is pretty good. I will say,
Gallywix is like, ooh, my buddy is back. Let me go, baby.
I will say that the Hogger replacement is not him at all. It's not. Why play him, honestly? Like, you get some gold, but it just doesn't feel that
It's
good to
something that
play.
you can, I guess, triple into
Yeah,
early on
yeah,
certain boards
yeah.
or end your turn on. But yes, instinctively this doesn't feel like an engine to play around. So the text of this new, essentially, it takes the place of Hogger because it's a 5-drop pirate.
Mm-hmm,
Is a 7/6 instead of a 6/6.
mm-hmm.
At the start of your turn, gain 1 gold. Repeat for each other friendly pirate. Now, because of the specific wording, it will interact quite well with the 4-drop because you'll gain 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, right? So it'll
Mm-hmm.
tick, 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 tick. So
I
there's
mean,
absolutely things that you can do with Underhanded Dealer, and it's nice to start your turn with extra gold, but you're not going to be rolling it down for Record Smuggler,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah. Bit sad, but definitely a fun card. I also feel like they're being safe with the Fleet Admiral. The 6-drop where you spend 8 gold, you get a random pirate. I feel like they're being safe with that. They're trying not to make it super broken, right? Because 8 gold is a lot, right? Obviously, you can proc it like twice or so, but still feels like I don't. didn't feel like, oh my god, I have to get this, like, or I win the game if I grab this
Right.
card or anything like that. So wasn't super solid, but pretty happy with the 4 drops. I guess all the 4s I was happy with. The others are because the
Yeah.
Cleave's also on 4, right? So I'm a 4 drop pirate fan. Rest of them, eh.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of tier 4. I just had fun with Millhouse doing pretty much
Anything
that.
you wanted, yeah. I
Yeah.
got offered Millhouse like 4 times. I didn't play it a single time. I think I was too scared.
I got it offered one time, and I was like, "Yep, let's go."
But you had really good types for it, probably copium.
Probably. I mean, pirates were in, and it was really pirates that was. It's. I mean,
No
that's pirate.
elementals.
Um, maybe
Elementals were in. I was watching your game.
elementals were in. Elementals were in. Oh, you watched the game? Okay, 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 cool. Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. It's not like it was just good. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was very interesting. It just feels like so many things are too strong, but like you say, power creep, it might just become the norm, or maybe it does get dialed back a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how at high MMR, especially like people really adapt to it and how they because there was this time where, for instance, Doomsayer was so strong that the entire meta just became just like triple into 3 drop and go hard. And I wonder if we're gonna get something like that right now.
I definitely
Especially
think there are some potential cards that might create that effect. Like some, like that elemental I talked about. I think that could do it,
right.
and things like that. So I definitely think there are some problematic cards, but I think those will be removed or changed in some way. So I wonder afterwards, like after the first patch, if what things will look like. I wanted to see if you want to talk about Beast because I felt like you guys played more Beast than we did, and what was your overall thoughts on that type of
Yeah,
archetype?
I mean, in general, you have the Baron Frog, right? Beast
Mm-hmm.
angle, and then the other one is you go hard with the Stompers.
Okay.
So the Stompers, we still know what that does, and then the Frogs do get that 1-drop Beast that Dog played against you
Yeah,
that makes
yeah,
extra
yeah,
taunts.
yeah, yeah.
So that's a lot of like with Baron on the board, that's a lot of bodies.
It was, yeah, and they come with taunt, right? So it's
Yeah.
actually so annoying. I
So
don't
you
know
have
why they're
Stealth
buffing
Baron.
frogs personally. Like I'm
Yes.
maybe I'm a frog hater. I know I am, but I'm just not like why are we
Probably should
buffing
be, right? It's a good idea to hate frogs. I don't think it's a good game mechanic.
Yeah, so I'm not in love with it, but definitely weird. Did you play with that 6 drop at all? Octosari Rap God?
No, no. We saw, I think, Show and XD. I did not really get put in a position where I was playing much Stomper.
Okay.
Um, so I did not really have much use for this. But so Octosari's text is Death Rattle summon a 2/2 tentacle. And then the additional text is it gains +2/+2 permanently after you summon a minion in combat. Now, what we saw was that the summoned tentacle was not gaining stats in real time. So I'm not
Oh,
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if
ew,
it needs to
ew,
spawn again or if that was a bug. So I'm not sure on that. Because my
ew.
assumption,
That's ugly.
yeah, my assumption was that the way it says, like it gains 2/2 permanently after you summon a minion in combat. Maybe we were. I was very tired yesterday, so I actually want to put a caveat on that. Maybe it was also chat misunderstanding it, where maybe everything was already summoned, right? And they were thinking, oh, it is Avenge or something like that. So keep that in mind. That I do want to put that out there. That's not 100% certainty, but that's sort of what it came down to when we were looking at it. But still, that is to get that early with Rat Pack on the board is pretty good.
Yeah, so basically it sounds like you're really relying on either Leapers or Stomper to carry you for beasts. You could
Yeah.
still do like some basic Mama Bear stuff, but obviously that's not gonna carry you, especially in the stat focused meta. Like it's not gonna
Yeah.
do
Now
anything.
you do have Crocodile back, so
Right.
the I think the tier 5 beast experience can definitely still be like that, where you
That
go Mama
tempo
Bear
game, yeah.
Crocodile. But the thing is, Stomper is so good that now the aim is to then transition and trade up into Stomper.
Hmm.
So that's because I've had so many good Stomper boards in this buddy meta. I mean, 3 attack per summoned minion. Like a rat pack pops and it's just like everything goes crazy. So you do get very, very, very high attack. So especially depending on what you're facing, if it is stat based, which I think we are going to see quite a lot of, it doesn't really matter that your rats get like a lot of HP. What matters is you get a shit ton of damage on your board. So especially Golden Stomper with Reborn in the back, 6 attack per summon. Like, yeah, that adds up, right? And that's 6 attack for the entire board. So much. Yeah, it's really hard to outstat a proper Stomper comp, especially early in the game. So that's generally what it feels like. You get the setup with you triple into Mama Bear, you play some Beast, but then you're trying to push for a Stomper in the back.
I feel like it might get beaten after people understand the meta. What did you see Banana Slammer at all? I never really saw anyone play this. It just didn't seem like it was worth it.
So I don't even know exactly if this works in the most favorable interpretation or not. So Banana Slammer text is after you summon a beast in combat, double its stats.
Mm-hmm.
Does this apply at the end of all the initial buffs, or does
It
it?
better. It
Yeah, so
better.
like
Like
does my Stomper buff it first and then it gets doubled? Does my Mama Bear buff it first and then it gets doubled?
if Mama Bear doesn't buff it first, like you get me out of here.
Yeah. The assumption as well is that I think it's the most favorable
Yeah, it
interpretation.
has to be. If it's not, it should, regardless. So it will.
Yeah,
I'll
so
let them
the
know.
text is after you summon, so maybe Mama is like whenever or something. I don't know. Like that could very easily solve it. Because I mean that does indicate that it's the last step right after you summon.
Yeah. So I from the Beast games, I didn't really see anyone play with this at all. Like it just sounded like
Yeah, I mean, but compare this to the shit we were doing.
yeah,
We were
right.
talking about.
I agree.
Now I will give my rat +5/+5. I mean, like it's like
Yeah.
my Tom guy just gained extra 400 health this turn, or my upbeat guy gave me 10 cards in my hand and plus 140 to the board, or my magnetics just gained God knows how. Like it's hard for me to even think about, but I can look back at the boards and the 6-drop at the end game had 400. My deflecto was close to 200. Like some crazy shit.
Anything
Yeah.
we haven't talked about? I don't think we talked about Quilboars. Like you've talked
Right.
about how you could give
Yeah.
them 15 attack, but you haven't really dived deep on what that
Sure.
means.
So the Quilboar dream is that you get the 4-drop Quilboar that has Death Rattle, give your blood gems +1 attack. You triple into that early. So
let me see if I can find it.
yeah, if you can get them on screen. We had an amazing Alakir game where I had a parrot, and then I tripled into this thing. So my Alakir gives my parrot Divine Shield, Wind Fury, which then procs this thing twice, and then I attack with this thing, it dies. So that means that every turn, if I get good combat, I'm gaining 3 attack on my blood gems. So you can see how it's not hard to get your blood gems up to 15 attack. What I did after that was trade it out for a Selfless, and then I just had Wind Fury Macaw with Selfless, and on my blood gems gave all my minions huge attack. So then you are essentially playing like a poison Divine Shield.
Yeah, I see.
So that's why I was thinking
it's almost like that undead card, right?
the Anubarak.
Anubarak,
Yeah. The so there's a couple other things going on there. In terms of the blood gems, what I saw a lot of people do as well was you can necrolyte a stack, and whenever you move a blood gem, if that one blood gem gave +15 attack, that moved blood gem will also still give 15 attack. So you can so extremely easily. Let's say that you've played a lot of the.
That's crazy.
Yes. So there is another Quilboar that has Battle Cry. Give your blood gems +1 health.
Yeah.
So that is more of a brand thing, and then you roll a few of those. And what happens then is you can very easily buy a normal sized trickster, play it, necrolite all the gems on that trickster, and suddenly you have a 200 health trickster. That is
So it's
very
like
possible.
old. It's like old. Like
It's like
yeah, it's
cookie
like
stuff.
Cookie Chemist.
Not really, because you're not duping the gems, but you will get a very large minion.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the minions that you take the blood gems from, they lose all the stats, of
Oh,
course,
they do
right?
lose all the stats. Oh, okay, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. But I mean, if you're getting a 200 health
I thought
trick,
they were keeping those extra health
no,
stats.
no,
Oh,
no, no, no,
okay.
no. The but I mean, it's extremely versatile because you can move them around like that.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Stream's
that
good if
that
you're playing Vol'jin though, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. With Vulcan, you can do some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So a very, very, very peculiar thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's absolutely worth noting is you were talking about Battlemaster.
Mm-hmm.
Both my Quilboar games were carried about Battlemaster being on tier 4 because when you can play a very high health Battlemaster and you put a few gems on it to give it attack, suddenly that is a extremely relevant minion. So both my Quilboar game had Battlemaster in the mid game, where I was able to increase the attack of the Battlemaster so that it was immediately relevant. Because if your gems, even in the mid game, right, it's going to be like +6 attack, +7 attack, 3 gems on a Battlemaster, and suddenly that thing is almost killing, one-shotting anything it
Or
touches.
machine attack, yeah.
Yeah, and it has a bunch of health. Um, and then you have them on screen as well. Gem Smuggler and Charlie, like essentially any card that says play a blood gem and do it AOE, right? Especially that benefits from the buffed blood gems. So I alluded to a bit earlier. Charlie says play a blood gem on all of your minions. If your blood gems are up to 15 attack, that means you're giving your entire board +15 permanent attack. So I mean, it was insane, right? I actually had two Charlies on my end board. Like I actually won the game with that because I mean it's like okay, I'm going to keep that, of
My
course.
Charlies were giving +1/+1. I just want to say, like, I
uh,
didn't do what you
that,
were doing.
that did it wrong then, Collins. Oh, by the way, we got a rate from Natty. Thanks, so
Thank you so
like
much.
appreciate that. Welcome, guys.
Yeah. I saw
Uh,
some people, taking advantage of like Bissell botch, but for those blood gems weren't permanent. But in the fight, it felt pretty good, but they weren't super permanent.
I want to like first of all say like that's a great name, Bristleback. I think it's yeah, really good reference to the composer. Right?
Uh,
Can you show it again on screen? Because there was no one in my love. I never
yeah.
saw it,
Oh,
so I never.
it's a 6 drop. That's why. Avenge one,
Yeah.
play a blood gem on all your Quilboars. So it's Avenge one.
Ooh.
So
But
what?
that is pure combat
Yeah,
buffs,
yeah.
though,
When
right?
you combo with duo, though, it's like okay, well, all right, you're just scaling. So yeah, the
I,
downside is the combat. It's combat
it's
focused.
weird. Yeah,
But
yeah. No, I think
the fight was strong. I
yeah,
said,
for sure, for sure. I mean, if you can juice up your gems a little bit, then it's insane, right? Like, let's say your gems are up to several attack points, several health points.
right.
Then yeah. But the problem is, Quilboar don't actually do much avenge stuff. Is
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Is there a death battle
You
Quilboar?
played like
They
a what is a gas curler.
right.
That was all they did. That's what they were doing. They played a gas curler.
So kind of like
Yeah,
like a Pashmar, right? You run a coiler with a Pashmar, and then it's like Nagas. You're Nagas, but you just have that to trigger your
yeah,
revenge.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it was just pumping. I was like, oh, I can't kill anything.
yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess that's balanced.
I can absolutely see that being crazy. Where that might be one of those things where it's kind of like Ghoul of the Feast as well, where that flew under the radar at the
Mhm,
start,
mhm.
and then we played with it, and we're like, oh, this is busted beyond crazy, broken. Old Ghoul of the Feast, completely unnerved, was just like, oh, I mean, doesn't matter. We just win every fight. So it is very possible when you are looking at Avenge One and then having a beneficial effect.
Yeah, Avenge One is crazy. I want to say like anything with Avenge One just like always feels like really good, and we can like go to some undead cards and stuff like that. But yeah, I was
For
like,
sure.
okay. But I do think Quilboars are in a much better spot overall. because it's
Very interesting, and yeah, the upper limit seems very high.
Yeah.
With how you can impact every individual gym.
Yeah,
Cool.
I agree with that. And we haven't talked about undeads at all. Actually,
So Radio Star, I think, is the one that jumps out. I don't know if that was the same for you.
I don't know if I did the. Did I split undead? Where's undead? Sorry.
Okay, I mean, I can just explain, right? So the Radio Star is the 3-drop. It's a 3/1 death rattle. Text: get a plain copy of the minion that killed this minion.
Okay, I found it.
So that's if you want to compare that to a unit that we know right now, it's the Coin Naga.
Yeah. That guy. Yeah, that guy is so strong. I was like, it stole my 6-drop. Okay. Lich Bazal is broken. Just let's start off. And I was able to like get a 6-drop turn 6 or so, or turn 5 or 6. Like 8 gold. I had a 6-drop unit. That's the one. Right? And it stole my 6-drop.
Stealing 1-drops at the start, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So turn one, I go Coin Naga, take another Coin Naga.
Okay,
it's like okay.
Obviously high roll, but yes.
I mean, the game is over, right? Like, how is
very,
that?
very brief, right explanation. So Lich Bazil was reworked that her hero power now costs you 1 gold, but the text is get a minion from the tavern, take as much damage as its tavern tier.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So compare that to a Lich that would have to take 3 damage to buy a 1-drop. In terms of the old, not even 3 damage, right? Because old Lich was take 2 per coin, so that's 6 damage, right? So
it was so funny. I had to choose between Lich Bazal and Mutinous, and they're like, oh, one steals the minion, one steals like consumes a random one for the shot. I was like, which one's better? I was just like, how is this? Like, this one is like way better.
And you take some damage, but the damage gets made up for.
Yeah, you win every fight, so you're not even struggling. Yeah, for sure.
That is indeed a mental block that some people might have, where they say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take like 3 damage for a 3-drop." But I mean, think about all the damage you take from losing fights. You take none of that anymore because you're so much ahead.
Yes, you're so ahead. It was the early game was so stupid. I was just like, oh, this is not balanced.
Yeah.
But they stole my 6-drop at turn 8. I was like, Beaufort just won. He's just taking my goods. I think, oh man, he had like 2 of them, and one of them got my 6. The other one got like a 3 or something.
Yeah, little bit of a thing here. Lich King loves this, right? So when Undead are in, I will go 3-on-3 with Lich King and try to get this, and then reborn it. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the nuts, right?
This card doesn't seem fair. I will say, like, I think it needs probably some change or somewhere.
I mean, just compare it to the Coin Naga, right?
Yeah,
Coin Naga,
right. It's just way better.
Good card to get it early, and then this thing, not only does it just pretty much always proc, right? Your opponent pretty much has to have an empty board, or you need to be too greedy with it, right? Putting it too far back. So this thing is pretty much guaranteed to proc because of the 1 HP. It steals a body instead of a coin. So you already get the effect. You get the coin because the minion can be sold. But the body gives you tempo, and then sometimes it's more than just tempo. You steal an actual card that you want.
You get an archetype, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's very, very good. But I mean, I knew this when I reviewed Undead on stream, I was like, oh, this is the nuts. And then I saw Zillow Bones. I was like, okay, early Zillow Bones is also really good, probably.
Wait, what's Zillow Bones?
It's the 4-drop. It's the 4-drop that gains plus 3 HP.
Oh, yeah. That card is so crazy, dude. Yeah. What?
So, that was my Undead review on stream. I looked at it. I was like, okay, Radio Star is good. Zillow Bones is good.
Yeah, the rest is this card is so stupid as well. Yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Good assessment, right? Okay, we can move on.
I played with this, dude. I played it with Mechs in, and I'm just like, okay. I pop what's Menace plus 9, right? Like, it's just like, I start with a 5/10. I had a Menace. I was like, this is a 5/10. If on 4, I'll buy it. Yeah. And then it's just like a 5/50, like 3 turns later. I'm just like, well, it has more attack, but like, it scales like crazy. I was like, how is like plus 3 health is way too much for sure. Like, this thing needs to maybe be toned down a little bit. Look, it's definitely weird how good the scaling cards are, right? And then you can buy cards that don't scale like at all, right? And then there's these cards that just like scale crazy. And
See, this is why I rate Peggy so much, right? Because that
yeah,
to me is Peggy, where like Peggy is like a card, but then it also gives you like I don't know
50,
9/9.
yeah, 9
Yeah,
9, yeah.
like in a good turn, 2020 or some shit, right? But yeah. So and then every turn it does that.
Yeah.
So that's always why I like Peggy so much. It's like no, like it's a decently stated
I
minion when
like
you get
Peggy
it.
when I have another Peggy. Alright.
Yeah. Oh, that's the dream of
I
course.
had a game with double Peggy for sure. Like
Yeah,
early, and it was like, yeah, that's
ooh,
right.
you just don't lose fights anyway. Yeah. So, anyways, so that's a trend I guess we are noticing with the self-scaling stuff. Seems to be doing really well.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree
Same
with
with
that.
like the mech, the security drone thing that scales end of turn. I mean, and again, right? That's probably gonna be fine. This is just enjoy it. But yeah, do look at your cards and ask yourself, what does this actually do, right? So the Zillow Bones, what Collins did there is an ability that good players have. They do that very easily. Like, oh, this is a 5/10 and with upside.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I have a menace. So, and then if you have a taunt, it's always going to proc, and it's like it's guaranteed a 5/10. So then you can very easily look at a card. Oh, okay, that's insane because it's a 5/10 when it comes down, and then the turn after
The
that,
turn after is just, yeah, it was just like
yeah, I might summon 5 minions that fight, right? Because then I buy a
I
soul
had
stealer.
I had a buster.
Yeah,
I did
and
some
then you have a counter, and then you resummon a
it's like
buster. And it's like,
it's just like
yeah,
okay.
that's yeah. So that feels like it will probably not continue to give 3 health per
Yeah,
avenge when
yeah.
it's or per
First
avenge
summon, yeah.
per summon.
Yeah.
I call it avenge, but it doesn't even have to die. You just have to
No,
summon.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Although it is harder to summon things, right? Like
yeah,
things will always
yeah.
die. You will not always summon.
And maybe like it can be hard to scale the health. I mean, the attack if you don't have any like attack scaling synergy. So
Oh yeah,
that's like
it's
the
essentially
downside.
you try to get a new brack.
Yeah, or Quilboars or something. So I
Yeah,
think Quilboars might be like, hey, give me your attack for all the things that have tons of health but no
yeah,
attack. Yeah, so
yeah. We'll probably see some nice hybrid
hybrid
strategies coming.
Quilboar strat. I can definitely see that. Um,
Cool.
but those are the two that jumped out. Right, I tried Sister Death Whisper. Didn't feel good at all. I tried a new brag, but it was probably too slow. It just
Yeah.
yeah. So there's
Well, when
just
there is power creep and you're playing something that wasn't altered,
yeah.
you have to ask yourself, like, okay, why am I
Yeah.
playing the
I
archetype?
will say Hungering Abomination was good. Was still like Avenge 1, like gain plus
Yeah.
like that's still good.
This card flies under the radar for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
yeah, for
I've
sure.
uh I've definitely snap picked this card over like others 5 drops, and then my chat was like, why are we taking that? And I was like, all right, ask me again in 2 turns when you see
Yeah.
how big this.
Yeah. This thing is pretty solid, so I do agree with that.
Yeah, it's like, but again, setup dependent, right? Some
Hmm.
boards you're like,
Right. Right.
maybe I get lucky. But essentially, if you have a risen rider, right, that just screams like, oh my god, I get a taunt and then another taunt, and then I have some other weak shit in the back. So then by the time they can hit the A bomb, it's actually already big enough to survive. And especially because people put their biggest attack minions first a lot of the time. So then your Risen Rider will block those so that when they do hit your A bomb, it's with one of their middle minions and it doesn't actually get one shot. So yeah, just beautiful if you have that taunt reborn.
Yeah. And then I believe we have Nagas and then neutrals to go over.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
uh,
Let's speed run it.
Yeah, in terms of Nagas, I played a decent amount of Nagas. I will say the Reef Riffer is pretty powerful, for a hyper leveling, at least for me.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
with Lava Lurker, and they're both on 2, right? So Lava Lurker, Reef
Oh, yeah.
Riffer, they both on 2, and then every time you level, it gets stronger. So it just makes your Lava Lurker pretty easy to scale with. So I was pretty happy with this card. Zesty Shaker, I couldn't find like the best way to use this. But it looked like potentially strong, especially if you have like setup.
Yeah. I think it's the Crooner, the scaling spellcraft that really likes this card. Because then you get to cast it multiple times per turn.
Oh, the Crooner. I never played with it because I was like, oh, +1/+1. I can't
Oh yeah.
invest.
I think if you buy a Zesty on 3 and then you roll this, like this essentially scales twice as fast.
Okay, so that's the idea. I appreciate that because I
Yeah, I
didn't know
think
what to
that's
do with it.
Yeah, I think that's what the devs had in mind. Because I looked at this as well. I was like, yeah, this is great if I want to die.
Yeah, in the game, that was what I was thinking. Yeah, this is useless.
It's like, oh, let me just buy a 2/2 that gets +1/+1 per turn. But then obviously, you have like two of those guys on the board.
Right.
Then the spellcrafts, obviously there's huge potential here for speeding up the process when you have multiple of either crooners or shakers.
Or shakers,
yeah. Not good standalone. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get a chance to really play any Nagas, but I do share your opinion on that 2-drop because I did buy that 2-drop, right? Some games, and it did allow me to level fast, so that was nice.
Yeah, there's not like that much stuff to do with. It feels like some archetypes have like one direction. I would say, and I definitely kind of get that feeling with Nagas as well.
I think that's fine, right?
Okay.
Although I guess I do get what you mean with like mechs, for instance. There's Boombox and Buster, but then also just like chunky, shieldy boys, right? That is true. That is true. Yeah, so with Naga, I suppose it's more because they have that support underlying where you might not be playing like a pure Naga board in different ways, but you have like, okay, this is just like big Naga with like buffing a Myrmidon, or this is, go ahead.
Those type of archetypes don't have a lot of things to do early. Basically, they need that 6-drop usually to kind of start giving them all the support pieces to make them pop off. So like Caligos is the same problem, where if you don't hit the Caligos, like you're like, am I really?
Nagas are a very 6-drop heavy, right? They're a top end,
right?
They're a top end heavy composition. But in return for that, I mean, it's out now, right? The Wind Fury got removed, but the Wind Fury spellcraft and the Divine Shield spellcraft worked really well with cleaves. So that used to be their thing. And Nagas in a way for me were fine because even though it was very 6-drop top heavy, it felt really good to pop off with, right?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, Tseplus Greta, for instance, is pop.
I wonder if dragons are gonna feel that way if you have this like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, I bet.
I think when you have let's say 2 Callies and a Bran,
that already sounds so broken. Yeah,
right. And the cool thing is that there is a Murloc dragon. So before, when you were playing like pure dragon, you needed a Malgadon to proc your primal fins and stuff, right? But now you don't need that. You can.
Dragon.
Oh, it's a Skyfin.
Oh, the Skyfin. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
So you just have one Skyfin on your board with Bran, and then every single Murloc battlecry is also relevant to that Skyfin. And then most importantly, of course, Primal Fin, so that you can go like Chef a Primal Fin, play a Primal Fin, discover 4 things. Those 4 things might be battlecries or a pair or a tad, right? You know the life. So it's that's really the cool thing when you can just slam those cards on tier 6. So I think that it is true that it's probably also going to be a top end heavy build where it needs a lot of big boys. But when you can, so maybe if you remember this, because I feel like I can say sort of feelings of game states, and you understand that, where you used to power level, go to 6, and then just buy Kelly straight from the shop.
Yeah.
And that was good, right? And then you just popped off.
Right.
So maybe we get that back now, where it's like early 6, you buy the Kelly. So maybe Dragons is again like that, where it's not so much, oh, let me just slowly build up to it. No, play some random tempo stuff, level, get to 6, buy the Kelly.
You reminded me. Right, so you didn't play that much Murloc, but this upbeat flutist, I think, was crazy. It's a 2-drop. At the end of every 2 turns, you give a random in your hand plus 9 health.
Yeah, that seems a lot.
That is so much. No, it is so much, and you can easily have like a Scourfin in your composition, right? So that thing will give the card in your hand +5/+5 when it dies. So you'll get this, and that's set up. Then you'll buy something. That thing gets +5, 13 or 14 +5, 14 for the next combat, right? That's on top of its base stats. So I did this a couple of times, and I'm just like, every time like that, I just win, like I just win for a while. Especially if you're hitting something really, really powerful. So I definitely think that could be adjusted as well. The 9 health is a bit much in terms of, and it's every 2 turns, right? So it's not like it stops during that.
Yeah. So to let's make that a concrete thing in the game, right? So we level on turn 2. We buy this on turn 3.
Yeah.
Turn 3 is the first turn. Turn 4 is the second turn.
Yeah.
Turn 5 is the 7 gold turn. So on 7 gold, you get to play something with plus 9 HP on it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
good.
very strong. Yeah.
That's as you go to tier 3, right? That's not late in the game. That's
Yeah,
as
and
you go
it's
to.
like, who cares if you're holding like like a something for
Yeah,
a
you
turn? Like, it
you
doesn't
lose and
matter.
take 2
Yeah.
extra damage or
Yeah.
something. That's
It's really
because
like 9 health. I was like, what is this? Like, okay.
it is around 7 gold, 8 gold that you do want that power spike so you can go to 4 and not take a million
And not
damage.
take
So,
damage. Yeah.
yeah, that is a very good time to get stronger.
Yeah, so definitely think this is a bit much. But yeah, since you said you didn't play that much Murloc, I was like, I do have to
No,
mention
I
that.
cannot. Yeah, I will. I mean, yeah, the fact that this was never on my board probably gives you an indication of how much Murloc was banned in my lobbies.
Yeah,
Because I would have bought this on tier 2 every time.
yeah. Murlocs was really cool. In terms of what they could do. It feels very different. It does not feel like old Murlocs at all. So definitely love
So
it.
definitely a success in terms of revamping the type.
Yeah, I was.
Like it is a very different thing now.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, I guess if you're gonna take poison away, you gotta do something, right?
yeah, I mean, Venom was still relevant. There were some use cases with giving Venom, but overall, it definitely was a different archetype.
Mainly big taunts, I suppose, where that's a nice counter, like the Urzals and the Master of Reality.
I sniped the opponent's biggest minion for the win, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Like, he had like a battle master in the back, and like my one poison was like, yep, I'm gonna win you the game. And I was just like, damn it. I bet Vader feels so salty about that one. Yeah, it did happen. But lastly, we do have neutrals to talk about. There were definitely a lot of neutral changes. Mistake, right? A 1-drop amalgam. I don't know if you utilize this at all.
Not really.
Yeah,
Didn't feel insane to me.
and I think that's probably due to the poison changes, right? With no poison, there's not a lot of ways to really make this feel PS immediately. So I think it was probably okay to have this, but yeah, I didn't feel any two impacts from having this in the game as well.
It's like a soaker for buffs, right? You can buff it with some tier 2 shit. But
what's your thoughts on the changed Mantid Queen?
yeah, you're really so Reborn is now your Divine Shield, right?
Yeah,
so
pretty
the
much.
way so 2 big changes to Mantid Queen. So number 1 is Venomous instead of Poison, obviously, because Poison is no longer in the game. The other one is that they have removed the Divine Shield adaptation, which I think makes sense.
Yeah.
You would feel really bad when you have a Venom Mandate Queen where she is shielded, but then for a second hit, when the shield is gone, there is no poison. So they worked around that with Reborn. So now the Manted Queen attacks, dies, and comes back with Venom and attacks again. So you do still get 2 Venom charges on your Manted Queen if you adapt Reborn the same way how it used to be if you would adapt Divine Shield.
Yeah, I want to say like putting this in the back just did not feel good at all. Like opponents just learned and they were like, "Here's always a bumper."
We lead with the Mantid.
Yeah, you lead. Yeah, so that was my takeaway. Like you lead with the Mantid. Hope you hit some big taunt or something like that. So that was definitely something relevant there. Fireworks and then duo. We haven't really talked about upbeat duo, but this was like the big winner of the whole playtest, in my opinion.
So again, for those who are listening, choose a minion. At the end of every 2 turns, it gives you a plain copy. So yeah, very, very big value engine, giving you more copies of the cards you already have.
Yeah, a bit too strong in terms of like the flexibility of the card. You're right, you get to pick any minion you want or so. So definitely a weird one, and it just works really well with Firework Fanatic. The card after whenever you get a minion, you already have give your minion +1/+1. I definitely had a couple of people just playing those 2, and that was it. Like that and the Selfless. That was like, well, they had infinite Selfless, but that was their whole com, and they just steamrolled me, and I was just like, damn, I didn't do it. I couldn't beat them. They were doing nothing. Still lost to that. So I wonder how they're going to change that to make it feel a little bit more balanced, because the way it currently is, it's a bit much.
Yeah, I want to say I'd be surprised if it hits life like that, but I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that will probably get adjusted quickly, but I would not be surprised if it's going to hit
Yeah,
live
day
anytime.
one's gonna be pretty scary if you're not aware. But you'll get aware quickly. I'm like telling you
Yeah, you're gonna
that.
learn. You're gonna learn. So it's kind of like that Arana fireworks Elise thing where you need to see it one time and then you're like, oh, okay, I see it. It's disgusting. So again, for those of you who may not have been paying attention earlier, the combo is you have the upbeat giving you more copies of the things you already have, and then if you can get a brand, you heavily accelerate this process because you will get 2 of the minion that you already have, which means that you will triple guaranteed, right? Even if you already have 2 pairs or 2 copies, you'll get number 3 and number 4. The way how you can set that up then is you can very easily golden your fireworks and you can get more duos. So you can use the duo to make more fireworks and more duo. So that's so disgusting because it's a scaling engine that fetches.
Why does it remember the card you picked before, right?
Yes.
Isn't that just crazy to me?
That
That
is the insane thing to mention here, and I think it's really good that you remind me of that you say that.
Because
The
I didn't know.
oh
I was wondering why dog was getting 10 cards. I was like, how is it the brand? He didn't even have it. It's like, oh.
yeah. No, that's the crazy part where the tripled version indeed remembers what you targeted before. So you just get those 2 plus the other 2. And that is what we're talking absolute minimum. And let's say that you got, unlucky and you didn't get the brand when you were setting this up. You can just play a Drakari Enchanter. And then it's like you branded because it's end of turn.
Right.
So and then that's not that hard, right? You can find it after the fact. Whereas normally with Battlecry Minis, you didn't have a brand when you played it, tough luck. You can't rewind that. Like it's like the Sneed Buddy, right? You played it already. You can't just like take the brand, pick it back up, and play it again. With Drakari Enchanter, you're essentially getting that option where if you weren't getting 10 cards, you are now getting 10 cards. But I mean, you probably don't even need it as you
Get
get more.
stronger, yeah.
Yeah, you'll just get more upbeats, right? Because you'll target upbeat and you'll target fireworks, and you just get that, and that's just so insane. And it's in every single game, right? So that's the difficult. That's the problematic thing where if it is as insane as it looked to us in the playtest, you will see it dominate many lobbies because it's always in, and it's on 4, right? The combo is on
it's on
4.
4, yeah.
We've seen this with Boombox, right? You can't put something that good, that accessible, because then people just donkey roll for it. You can donkey roll for cards on 4, like that's a valuable strategy.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so that's something to look into in terms of neutrals. Other than neutrals, right? I think Drakarian Chanter has to be talked about as well. End of turns triggering twice. Pretty good in this particular set of cards added, right? There's a lot of things like the upbeat effect and the other, little synergies with the mechs and whatnot. There's a lot of cards that actually take advantage of this, so it's actually not that bad. Kind of feels like the next brand not bone mare, but Titus brand Titus Drakari is like the next in line in terms of
Right. I mean, it is
builders.
Lucifron, right? Rag Buddy. So we have seen this. There are some really freaky things you can do with this. For instance, the Ticketus coin prize is end of turn. So you can fill your hand with coins with the Drakari Enchanter and the Ticketus coin prize. So quite relevant, right? This might make you actually pick coin, because then when you see Drakari, you can copy your coin every time. Yeah.
Well, that's
So
if you like coins and not like minions.
I mean, the way it works, right? So you start with 1 coin, you use it, you get 2 coins back. You use those 2 coins, you get 4 coins back.
Oh, is that how
4
it
coins.
works?
Yeah. So I've done it. It's a YouTube video. So then you can have the problem at that stage is you don't actually want to go up to 10 coins because then you'll mill your price. So you want to get you want to
8
keep it at
coins.
8 or 9. Yeah, you
Eight or
want to leave
nine.
a slot.
Okay. I see.
So, but I mean that's still it's like you take 2 turns, right? Like you start your turn with 8 or 9 coins. That's it's really good. That's definitely the best prize you could get at
Yeah.
that stage.
Very powerful. Okay.
Yeah, some weird interactions that will happen that we don't that we're not even aware of right now.
Did you play with the boogie monster?
I saw one player pull it off, but I never saw Boogie Monster
Oh,
myself.
I played with boogie monster.
How'd it feel?
And I gotta say, early it felt good, and as soon as you have to buy 6 drops, I hated it. It should reset. It should. I don't like that. You have to keep buying sixes because it's not that easy to buy sixes, and you also have to be on 6, which is
Yeah,
something you can actually avoid doing if you only need one 6 drop. Like maybe a triple will give you the 6 you need, and then you don't have to be on 6. But the
yeah.
fact that you can only scale by getting sixes, and it doesn't like give you like double the proc or anything like that. It just doesn't feel that crazy. So if it either reset, which I think is preferred, or it had a boosted bonus if it was a tier 6, those two I'd been more okay
So
with.
we have to keep in mind, though, right? Theo is an absolute premium scaling engine,
Yeah.
and that targets 3 minions.
Yes.
So are we sure that we want to get +1/+2 to our entire board and give it an extremely accessible scaling engine?
Fine, Shady. Whatever.
All
I'm
right,
just
because
saying it didn't win me the game freely, Shady. That's
yeah,
all.
I think this is more a tempo tool that you use, and then if you hit more Boogie Monster, you can maybe do it, right? But the downside is that, well, maybe not now, maybe not in this meta, because health does matter more now. The reason why Theo is so insane in the current meta is that it's extremely good to swap in double Leroy, double Manted endgame.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can very easily build 3 large minions and then add tech.
Right.
Now that Manted is weaker, now that Leroy is not weaker necessarily, but it's a bit how do you say? I feel like Leroy is really strong because you can start with the Leroys and then you have the additional Mantids afterwards. Whereas if you only have the Leroys to pew pew with, it's harder to catch all the opponent's stats. Anyways, I mean it's a bit of a ramble, but it comes down to it where if stats are more important, then I can see buffing your board having more value.
Yeah, I definitely think it does matter what you have on your board. And while playing with it, it felt okay, but I definitely felt like 6 is expensive in terms of having
Right.
to make sure you find it and utilize it. So that was my issue. Where if it dropped down, it'd been a lot easier to keep procking and have that be your win condition. Because you do have to like find the pieces. Like sometimes you're not going to be holding 4s and 5s and stuff like that in your hand. So
That's fair. That's fair. No. And I'll defer to you because you actually played with the card. It's much easier. As even one time, right? It's invaluable to assess a card.
yeah. So, but I can definitely see it being like, but it's supposed to be your win condition. Like it's a shot. Is it not? The other cards are getting like 30 health per turn for free without doing anything. I mean, I have to buy cards. I don't know.
It can be a bit more like a Theodore, not a Theodore, like an Uther, where you just pick it up and you get some stats, right? So
Yeah, maybe.
you can technically use this to go to 6, right? If you buy the 1, the 2, the
Well,
3, you get some
well,
stats.
you have to spend a turn and then go to 6. Like the cards that go to 6, well, you don't have to do anything, right? It's just Eliza level. Where this one you have to spend a turn, getting your combo up, and then you have to spend the level. Then you have to buy a
Yeah,
6.
that is fair. So maybe too slow to be a fast card and too fast to be a good slow card.
I
So
see what you're
not
saying.
really.
Yeah, like it's a
Yeah,
weird
kind of
middle
stuck in
ground
the
where
middle.
you tempo with it
Yeah.
5 times and you sell it, like because you're like I'm done. I'm not paying. I'm not. spending a tier 6 every time. So it's just awkward. Um, but this might just be like, I feel like this is like a noob friendly card if we change it, right? Like, oh, I just buy a five, like I just buy 1, 2, 3, and I'm strong enough to win. So that's like the scary part where if you do buff it, it might be too noob friendly. Where not noob, like people who get this early just win at lower MMRs. Like if you get this early, just win because it's so easy to pilot from there. That might be the fear. So I could definitely see that
We
as a concern.
we have seen indeed that how good vanilla stats are, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's the regular scaling.
yeah.
So
So that
this
that
that
is
is
that is a fair concern.
all right, man. I'm gonna have to run around this time.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I think we're good. So let's get to the final points, the final topics. So
excellent. All right.
overall, that shall be our overview of the patch. It's coming out on the 9th in a couple of days, so definitely tune out for that. Apparently, it's coming in sections, so it's not going to be immediately everything at once. So you'll be able
Yes.
to slowly calibrate and learn these different changes on meta, but it's definitely going to be a different type of game, especially if you're used to buddies. It's going to be a little bit different. So hopefully, you guys enjoy that, take some time, and have a nice rest of your day. So hopefully you guys. That's all we
Have
got.
a good one.
Any final words, Shady?
Oh no, just like always. Thank you so much for listening. Really do appreciate it. And hope you guys have a wonderful start of the new meta.
Bye bye. Bye bye.